Sorry. I'd like to open our meeting for the regular city council meeting Thursday, March 9th, 2023 at 6:32 PM. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Cindy, could you please call roll?
Councilmember Bransky,
Present.
Councilmember Blankenship,
Present.
Mayor Carnegie,
Here.
Councilmember Falca, Councilmember Odell,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Shortett,
Here.
and Councilmember Sutherland.
Present.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilwoman Kulka from the meeting tonight.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 4, the approval of the agenda. I look for a motion to approve it unless there's any amendments to the motion or agenda. Councilwoman Baranski.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any comments and questions from the audience? Thank you, council. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, at this time, I'll call citizen participation. This is for agenda items only. If you cannot stay for the entirety of the meeting, make yourself known if you have a question or something regarding the agenda or an item specific to the agenda. I see none. Item 6, the consent agenda. Item A is the city council regular meeting minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, that's consent agenda.
We are not going to go through that whole list, are we?
Yeah, let's go through it all.
Are you that bored? Our meetings last long enough, Mike.
We got all night.
Some of us are not retired.
Daylight saving time is coming. Got an extra.
Make a
Lord.
motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and second to accept the agenda as submitted. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now to the real stuff. Item 7, new business. Item A is the Fraser Public Schools bond proposal presentation.
You are so having issues today.
Remember this hand. It's a stamp.
So many comments I will keep to myself. Take one down.
Pass it down.
Oh, my God. Here's several. Here, keep going.
Thank you so much. First of all, for letting me have a couple minutes of your time. I know you have a full agenda. I did want to let you know I have two people with me, our board president, Mr. Wallace, and one of our trustees, Ms. Wassel, is also here. So they wanted to show their support as well.
Welcome.
So thanks
Good to have
again.
you.
I appreciate you giving us just a couple of minutes of your time tonight so I could talk a little bit about our upcoming bond that we're putting on the ballot May 2nd. You may have heard about it already. And we're looking to do a no tax rate increase on the May 2nd bond proposal. And we really wanted to just talk to you a little bit about what we're looking to do in Fraser Public Schools. This is a no tax increase bond, which is, I think, very important for our constituents to know about, and it is for $59 million. And we've been very fortunate in Fraser to have, wonderful schools, and I'm very proud of the work our teachers, all of our staff do, and just the honor of being, our superintendent of Fraser. It's a great community, and I know you all know that, and this bond is really, I keep saying our buildings are vintage, They are kind of old. Some of them are over 60 years old. And just like your home, there are things that we needed to do, to keep them and to maintain them. So what I've provided you with is a flyer and also the PowerPoint presentation that I've been really sharing with all of the stakeholders throughout the community. So I've met with different teachers groups. I've met with our PTOs, family nights, things of that nature. And this is the presentation that I've been sharing with them. I'm not going to go through all of those slides with you, but it does give you a really nice overview of some of the work that we're going to be doing at our schools. I provided you with the Edison Elementary overview. All of the work we're doing at our elementaries is pretty similar. But basically, we've bucketed our work into 4 major categories. In October, we had done some surveys of community stakeholder members, staff, about things that they felt we needed to improve within the district. And probably the biggest one was an additional layer of security for all of our schools. We're very fortunate. We've been doing a lot of things already. We just had an evaluation of all of our facilities a couple months ago, and we're in really good shape, but there are things we always need to improve on. So we're looking to add more security cameras. We're looking to add more, swipe cards, things of that nature. We're also looking to reinforce outside doors and, just really looking at all aspects of our building to make them safe and secure for our students and staff. So that's really priority 1. The next big bucket is our infrastructure. We have a lot of work on our mechanical and electrical systems that need to be replaced, and a lot of our roofs need to be repaired. So that's that second category. And then the third category is really our parking lot. So you're going to see we're asking to do a lot of parking lot work. And then lastly, replacing equipment. We've been very strategic about our technology. So the way this bond will work is we'll be able to refresh all of our technology at the end of the bond. So if you are aware, we have iPads for all of our students K through 6. And then 7-12, we have MacBooks for our students. So all of our technology is built into this this bond as well. In addition to purchasing 3 buses, we have our own bus fleet. So we try to purchase buses in kind of a staggered way, so we don't have to replace the entire fleet. A bus costs approximately $100,000. So you need to be very strategic about those purchases. And those are, like I said, really those 4 big categories. The other important piece to know about our bond is we're going to do 2 draws. That's a kind of a new practice a lot of districts are moving on. So we'll do half the work on the first 2.5 years, and then we'll go for a second draw on the bond, and that saves us some interest. That's something a lot of the schools around us have been doing as well. So as I said before, this is really a very necessary bond for us just because of the infrastructure piece. However, if you turn the flyer over, I do want to just highlight some of the pieces that obviously our community find to be very important. We are going to be making some upgrades to our stadium. If you've been to a football game or a soccer game lately, the concession stands could use a little bit of work. Some of you may have worked the concession stands there. So they are going to be getting a renovation. We're also adding over at the high school a multi-purpose room that dance team can use. It's going to be like a mat room the wrestlers can use, so they'll have the mats on the ground at all times. Right now, to put the mats down, the wrestlers have to roll them out, or the cheerleaders have to, roll those mats out. So we're going to have what we call a multi-purpose athletic space, and it will have flexible mat storage, so we're excited about that. In our auditorium, we were able to do a lot of work in the last bond on the seats and things of that nature, but we're going to be putting in a brand new soundboard, so that we're very excited about as well. So again, a lot of excitement around just the idea of, improving the heating and cooling in the building. As everybody knows, you don't want to be hot in the summer, and you don't want to be too cold in the winter. So I know our teachers and our staff are, again, happy about that. Just a few other things. March 23rd is when the absentee ballots will be available, so that's something we're really, pushing and sharing with people that they can vote absentee. And then that election is May 2nd, and we've done a wonderful job. I give Kristen Ledford a lot of credit. She's my community relations director. If you go to the FraserDifference.com, you'll see all of the information and a very nice, itemized list by building. So you can definitely check that out. But it was important to me and to our team that as the city council that you heard from us, what we're working on. and what we're trying to do. So if you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear them. You can either ask me now or, give me a call. I always appreciate all the work that you do for the, obviously the city of Fraser. So I appreciate the time.
Carrie, one quick question I have, I maybe lost it, but you say it's a draw, two draw?
Yes.
How many first years go by and then a draw in a second?
We'll do 2.5. It'll be at the halfway point. So that's how typically they work that. I know, for example, Utica, I don't know if anyone knows of Utica, Utica Public Schools, they're doing a 10-year bond, and they're doing 4 draws, I believe. So it works out well because then it holds off on the interest.
Okay.
So we'll work on mainly like the mechanical, those types of things, in that first draw, and then that second towards the end is when we need more of the technology work done. So we've broken it up into kind of 2 projects.
And then, let's see, the transportation building, that's the buses, right?
Yes, well, we have 2 spots. Our O&M building is right next to the board office, so that's where, the salt and all of that, the maintenance guys are. But our bus garage is over by Emerson, and that's where we keep all of our buses are, housed over there, along with where all of our, our bus drivers go, and we do all of our maintenance on the buses over there. So there's another garage over there as well.
That building looks old, that's been there for.
Yeah, it's been there a while. All of those buildings need a little bit of a facelift. So yeah, that building's been there a long time. And like I said, that we have a garage there to work on the buses there, but then over at our O&M building, that's where we keep all of our snow plows, all that lovely stuff that we might be using tonight, I believe. I have a call at 9 o'clock to check. They're waiting. I know, actually, if you're watching, the call is until 9, so we haven't made a decision yet.
Mayor Pro Tem Shornack.
Well, with regards to that, even though I don't have any children that are in the, we literally, and this is not a joke, I remember my parents used to say this, we would walk a mile in the snow. And I literally would walk a half a mile in like 3 feet of snow to get to school. And we didn't have these little, it's just snowy. And it's going to melt the next day anyway. So I don't even know why you'd call school off. They've had enough time off. We need to educate them. Anyway.
Not going to say anything.
I know. Anyway, my question, I do have several questions, actually. Okay, so one, because I know someone's going to ask it, I understand how it is, but I'm going to tell you to explain it in layman's terms for a lot of people who may be watching with regards to no tax increase.
Right. We currently have the mills that were being taxed already. So in essence, what we're doing is we're extending that same amount of a tax collection over a longer period of time. So there's no tax increase. We're just paying that same amount of tax that we've always had. And that's the easiest way to explain it.
Thank you.
Just continuing, to collect that amount of tax. I think it's interesting and when I was talking to a group of parents yesterday about this, how are schools funded? And I always go back to the fact that think about each student, you get X amount of dollars for each student, and it's approximately, around $9,000. And I'm giving you a little rough estimate there. The bulk of that money is what we use for salaries and to run the daily operations of the building, pay the bills. So we really don't have an opportunity to fix the infrastructure, the way, we would do if we were running our own household. So most schools are funded using these bonds, and that's been, the history of schools. And that's a different way of kind of thinking about things. And as of right now, that's the kind of the place we're in. This is, since I've been in Fraser, this is my 3rd bond now. And we've just kind of extended that. Thank goodness our taxpayers have supported that, and we've extended that collection. So great question.
So you mean we're not getting all that money from the lottery? Oh my gosh, I can't even understand. But anyway, so my other question is going to be this. So I know that the bond, it probably has been 10 years, because time flies when you're having fun. With regards to the bond money originally for all the major construction and everything that was done at the high school.
Yeah, we had the 05 bond, and then we had another bond in 11, and then another bond in 17.
Right,
So those are
it's the 17 one I'm thinking. So with that, when was the last time we did the roofs? Because I would think that they would last at least 20 years.
Yeah, that's a great question. Certain parts of the district had newer pieces put onto it. I don't know if pieces is the right word. So we're having to replace parts of the roof. For example, over at Edison, we have to replace the piece that was added on in, I believe it was 2005 when we made that addition. So they're about 20 years old right now.
Okay.
So our buildings, if you remember, we've, like at Richards Middle School, there's the old 80s wing where we then moved the front of the building, to where Garfield is. So, that building is that front of the building is newer than the back end of the
Right.
building. So when we talk about replacing those roofs, you're talking about different kind of parts of that. If you look on the PowerPoint, it will give you a little bit more detail, or on the website of specifically like what we're replacing, or if it's like we're taking off a Univent. I know Salk has this very old Univent on the top of it that needs to, we never took that off, and that needs to be replaced. So different things kind of at different buildings. It's same thing with the parking lots, like we're replacing certain parts of the parking lot at the high school, like the east and the west side. So certain parts are just not in as good of shape as other parts of the parking lots. So great questions.
Yep, that's it.
Any others?
Councilwoman Sutherland.
I just wanted to say thank you for including extra security in that. As a parent with 2 kids in Fraser Public Schools, I'm really grateful to hear that the swipe cards and cameras that you're thinking about those things and adding them into upgrades that you'll be making.
Yeah, that's
Very grateful.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a good point. I was at the PTO with the Edison parents last night, and they were all asking me about that. And I said the other piece is practicing, making sure everybody knows what to do and being really prepared. We're just making sure now we have the Columbine locks, but just even making sure that it has that arrow on it. We're replacing all of them so teachers know which way to lock their door. In a time of a crisis, you get nervous. So we talk a lot about, being prepared, practicing for things. And we have a great administrative team, and I really believe everybody has enough experience where we're able to work together. You probably heard on, the other day what happened on 14 Mile. The police were great. They called us. We kept all the kids in at Edison. We did a lockdown. It went very smoothly, and everybody really communicated with everyone. And in that case there, you knew it wasn't a case of a stranger danger. It was obviously the underground electrical issue that we were having. So you make adjustments accordingly. We knew the kids couldn't go out for recess, but they also could still go to the lunchroom, and you could operate a certain way. So it's being prepared for each incident because they're all very different. So I'm glad to hear.
As someone who has to drop off forgotten lunches and drumstick bags frequently, the current measures in place are very good. No, you're not getting in. But,
Yeah, we're not buzzing it yet.
right. But thank you for thinking of that. And as far as the snow day, my kids will be putting ice cubes in the toilet tonight. So, sure. And praying. You never heard that?
Yeah. There's a whole list.
There's a whole list of
for
witchcraft
God's
that you can do to get a snow day. So.
Oh, good Lord in heaven. Okay, now I've heard it all.
That's because your kids went to school in the snow uphill both ways.
No, my kids didn't. My kids didn't. I did.
Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. And again,
Kids got the buses.
I appreciate all that you do. So thank you for giving me the time tonight.
Another question?
Oh, for sure. Yes.
I just have to walk.
Hello. First of all, I too appreciate you coming here. Could you just repeat the total amount of this bond again?
59 million.
59 million. If memory serves me correct, I think back in '04, '05, there was a $59 million bond, correct?
I believe so.
Right, so that's almost 20 years ago, so I understand that. I didn't see it, but I thought I heard you say that. And then my second question, and just for general knowledge, I know the city received an estimated amount of $2 million in COVID money when we went through that. And it was used for precautionary things and proactive. How about the school? How much did the schools get?
We've received millions of dollars in COVID too, and it's in different buckets. So we received, there's 3 buckets. There's the ESSER funding that came in, and it's probably close to 13 million that we got in funding. And we've used a lot of that money for mental health support. We've hired extra social workers. We've used a lot of that money to provide they call it learning loss due to COVID, and after-school tutoring, things of that nature. So a lot of that money went into a more direct support to students versus infrastructure or replacing lights or things of that nature. But a really good question. The other piece is they've given us a lot of opportunities for grants. So we just received a mental health grant. We have a school safety grant where we received $450,000, which allowed us to put in a brand new PA system. So some of these other grants that we've been receiving because of the COVID money and the other grants that are out there have allowed us to be very efficient with our bond money. So for example, we used a grant to buy the PA systems, and then the speakers for all the buildings will come out of the bond. But those grants, we probably got, I think, between 11 and 20 different grants, over the last 3 years. So I think we're down to probably about 15 right now that are kind of winding down. But it's definitely a different time with COVID because of all of that funding that came in. It was critical to the schools. We were able to really be in a good place right now. Without that money, we would have really struggled, so.
No, and it's just general knowledge, as you think of things, like I knew what we had received, because I wasn't certain of the schools. And now, because all the residents are involved in this together, I just think it's a little nugget of information that people need to know when putting things together
Absolutely.
in their mind. So, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
that's a very great point. I'm glad you brought that up because, like I said, we've been able to provide a lot more services to our students that, obviously that have felt the effects of, COVID and being out of school for as long as we were, or even being in that state of flux. Even though we were in session, there was a lot going on, contact tracing and all the things you all experienced. It was a lot for our kids. Thank God they're very resilient. Other questions?
I think that's it. Thank you, Carrie, for coming in and
For
for your,
sure, my information's on here too. Give me a call if you have any questions, so.
Okay.
Have a great meeting. I have to head to Salk, actually, so
Great.
I'm gonna be sneaking out of here. We have conferences tonight.
okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Item B, the carport pavement replacement project. Mike, I believe you handled this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. At our September 2022 meeting, we brought 2 parking lot projects for consideration of award here at City Hall in the senior housing parking lot. A lot of discussion that council had was related to the condition of the carports and the pavement underneath the carports. Those particular areas were not part of that scope. Subsequently, we requested quotes from 4 local concrete contractors to see how much those projects would cost. We've got those before you tonight for consideration to see if there is interest in pursuing replacing the pavement underneath the carports with concrete. The low bid was from L. Anthony Construction in the amount of $126,290. And that was split between City Hall and senior housing, approximately 60-40. Both of these would be over the budgeted amount for the parking lot improvements at both locations and would likely require some additional funding be allocated to those funds to cover the cost of this work if council does choose to move forward with these projects.
And with this project, when will we have to react, what these prices are good for? How long is this quote?
We don't have numbers, typically 60 to 90 days. The vendors that we solicited quotes from are all local and regularly working in and around the city of Fraser. Ideally, we'd like to have this work done before any of the asphalt work was done. It's a better final product if we're able to do that. We would expect that work wouldn't start on any of the concrete part of it till mid-March. Usually we like to wait till the weather warms up a little bit and the contractors don't have to worry about cold weather protection costs. So I think they would anticipate that the work would be done early spring as soon as the weather breaks.
It looks like it's just a lot of saw cutting and fixing those areas that are all sunk. So
Correct. Yeah, we would saw cut and remove all the old pavement underneath there and put 6 inches of concrete down, which is the typical thickness for a parking lot.
it's pretty hazardous over there, both places. Councilman O'Dell.
Mike, when is the senior parking lot scheduled to get asphalted? That's set for the summer, right? Or
Correct,
fall?
yeah, the senior housing, we would look at having that done. I think the completion date in the contract was to have that done end of May, before the end of May. So this fits into that schedule. City Hall, we're still looking to potentially push that off a little bit and wait until the HVAC units are replaced so we don't have issues with the additional loading from the crane associated with that work.
That's scheduled in the springtime somewhere, right?
Yeah, it was originally scheduled to be done before the end of June, just to coincide with the end of the fiscal year, but we may extend that into next year.
But the concrete work, where the police cars are at, that wouldn't affect where the crane is, so it's just better to knock that out early and.
Correct.
And then, okay. With that, I would like to make a motion to approve the bid of $126,290 as submitted to replace the carport at the senior center and City Hall.
We have a motion and a second. Councilwoman Sullivan?
I just have a question. You had said that it was slightly over budget for both areas. Do you know how much, or do we, what, like?
Yeah, in the agenda request form, we had included those amounts.
Okay, sorry.
It was about $30,000 over for the, just trying to get my number straight, for the senior housing, and about $50,000 over the City Hall budgeted amount. And those budgeted amounts were set up just for the resurfacing, so this kind of is additional scope beyond those
Okay.
budgeted
Yep,
amounts.
I see it. I got it. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Shornack?
So yes, we'll have to make a budget amendment to this, correct? Is it for this year, Sarah? We'll have to make
Fiscal year, yes.
this fiscal year? Okay, and then, so where are we going to be taking those funds from? Are we taking them from the general fund? Are we taking them from the senior housing?
I know the senior housing has its own dedicated
Right.
fund, so
Theirs will
we
come
have
out of theirs?
additional within that, that we could pull from. As far as the city hall, I'd have to discuss that with Elaine of what the intent,
I would think that would come from the building fund for here. Well, for the maintenance of.
Building
Building, yeah, building.
Grounds and maintenance,
for-
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we can make sure those are the targeted budgets.
Yeah.
Line items. Any other questions? We have a motion second. Any comments or questions from the audience? Back to council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Item C, the DPW automated gates.
Mark is not here this evening. This agenda request is to approve Mr. Fence to install new automated entrance and exit security gates at the DPW yard. Currently, manual gates are padlocked at night, but are kept open during business hours to allow anyone to drive through the DPW yard, where we've had issues with illegal dumping, safety concerns with residents driving in front of moving equipment, and the risk of theft to equipment and fuel. The installation of new automated gates that requires a key fob to enter and exit the yard will eliminate and greatly reduce these issues. During the budget process, $100,000 was budgeted for this project. The total amount for quotes, for the quote listed is $31,469, so it is under the budgeted amount.
Councilmember Ransky.
Yeah, I remember when we talked about this, and the budgeted request amount was huge. There's definitely a need for that, I know, just driving by there and all of the years. And I'm very pleased with a $30,000, I think it's two different gates. And so I don't know, do we need to do a motion for competitive bidding or not? Like, do we? He did put, okay.
He did. There's
I was
three
trying to
on there.
scroll really
Yep.
fast because
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
There's three
Okay,
on
and
there.
with that being said, then I'll make a motion to approve the agenda item request to award the bid to,
Mr. Fence?
thank you, Mr. Fence,
31,460.
as outlined in the packet.
We have a motion and second. Councilwoman Sullivan.
So in the request, there are a lot of things that Mark had brought up when we initially talked about this during budget considerations. But I would like to know what has also been done since that time about these issues, because there was a lot of like, this could happen, or if, or maybe, and then not a lot of remediation to stop the problems without spending money on automated yard gates. And just with, all of our other expenses and dilapidated, buildings that we have and other improvements that we want to make, I would just like to know, like, what else has been done to help these issues? Though I do appreciate the fact that this is less than a third of what was originally asked for.
I know they've tried to keep the gates closed as much as possible. The biggest concern even expressed by Director Kretschmar is the access to the gas pumps. So this allows us to have that layer of protection for those without having the pumps physically lock themselves.
Yeah, we used to have to lock both the gates and just to fill up the trucks, you'd have to
Yeah.
take two
I
people.
mean, this is much, no, it's much better, but it didn't sound like I said, a lot
They
of
were left open
remediation
during.
was done.
They were open during the day all
So,
the time.
okay.
Councilman O'Dell.
Are there cameras around the building out there so we can, if we
We do
ever-
have external cameras and remote access to those here at City Hall. So we can monitor. It isn't monitored 24/7. So in the event that something did happen, we would be able to at least investigate what occurred, but without having monitoring in like a dispatch center, we aren't physically watching it at all hours.
It just seems like with a lot of city equipment there, it seems we should, I mean, a bulk of the amount of city equipment that's there, high-priced equipment, just seems like maybe we need to tighten that up somehow, some way, but maybe direct Mark to find alternatives for that without too costly of an amount, but yeah, because a lot of times you don't know until it's long gone, and where do you look? Whether it's motion activated marks or something on the cameras, I don't know, but I don't want to spend the money on the fence, but I see the need, and it just seems like from what, if I recall right, what he was saying, that his former employees coming in there and stuff, and I don't even know how that happens, but or is not put a stop to if seen, but I'd like to see better security precautions in there. Hopefully the gate will stop it, but someone's willing hard enough, they'll find a way, but that's all I had.
I think though, just to help out a little bit, most of the equipment's locked up into garages.
Okay.
The main stuff outside is the salt. The gas is really important. The fire hydrants and all that, so unless you can carry.
Can anybody just go up and pump gas, or do they gotta have a
Oh,
code?
no, there used to keep, we had to unlock that too.
Okay.
It's all been changed with the new pump too,
All
that we
right,
put in
good.
there a couple of years ago.
Good. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments and questions from the audience? Back to council. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The DPW supervisor vacancy.
This is another agenda item request of Mark's. This agenda item request is to fill the vacant position of the DPW supervisor due to the recent resignation of Melissa, our DPW supervisor, and to have union employees fill this temporarily until a permanent supervisor. This is the salary for on-call, non-union position that would report to Mark. So just a replacement for Melissa's role that we have previously held.
Okay. Councilman Baranski.
I would like to make a motion to replace Melissa, or the assistant superintendent position, as was previously filled.
Second.
Motion second. So you want to do? Okay.
Yeah.
We have a motion second. Any comments and questions from the audience? Back to council. Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Just sad Melissa left. I really liked her.
Lots to hire.
I have another one, because he asked for two things.
Oh, not E?
He asked to promote I don't know if we have to do it by motion or to temporarily fill with the union.
I don't believe we have a letter of understanding with the union.
Do we need to do that?
They
How
would
about this?
present that and vote on it as a union before we could ratify it as a city council.
Oh, so his
They need to
request-
approve it internally, and then it could be
Okay.
presented.
All right, that's fine then. Then I'll just wish Melissa well on her endeavors.
Yeah, that's all we can do.
Thank you.
Item E, ACM Finance Director vacancy.
We will not accept your resignation.
Councilwoman Baranski.
I would unfortunately like to make a motion to replace the Assistant City Manager Finance Director position. Tough shoes to fill, but a necessary need on both ends and the right decision being made. That's my motion.
Support.
Second.
Third, you mean.
Fifth or sixth?
So we have a motion, second and third. Any comments or questions on the motion? I see none.
To replace the assistant city manager.
Yeah, I just have a question for the maker of the motion. Is it in accordance with the splitting of the positions that was outlined in the packet? Is that the direction council is approving?
Yeah, I was gonna make two motions, so I was making the motion to replace so it's the finance position.
It's the finance director, I believe, is the
Yeah.
first, and then human resources director, I believe,
Correct.
is the second,
Yep.
right? I just want to make sure the language is clear so there's no confusion about that.
Yep, thank you, yeah. So my first motion is to fill the finance the new title would be finance director position.
And that's the one, we have a first, second. Any comments and questions on that motion? All in favor?
Holden.
Kathy, yep.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. My name's Michael Lessage, 15201 Fairview, Fraser, Michigan. I was here back as a council member back in 2021 when the 4-in-1 position was created. I had concerns about that at that time. That was a big job. I think we've seen that, and we have our second director leaving in 2 years. For their own reasons, everyone finds their own path. But what I would like to say is just point out a few things. This is the 8th finance solution we've had since 2014. I have, from the day I got on council, been a student of finance, municipal finance, and I spent the last 5 years working for Woodhill Group, a municipal finance firm. So I do have a little bit of experience working with finance directors, and I can tell you that it is a very important position. It is the key, it is the lifeblood of this city. Every employee expects to be paid. That goes through the finance department. Every resident expects a water bill to be correct. That goes through the finance department. Bonds, anything involving money, the city treasurer position, all of those things are very critical. So what I would like to say is, I'm going to reiterate what my concerns were back in 2021 when we looked for a finance director using this job description. First of all, the salary hourly rate range of $75,000 to $90,000 is a bit low. Mary Yaganyak, when she left in 2017, was making $75,000. Tim Sadowski, when he left in 2019, was making $86,000, and I will speed this up. So I think that range is a bit low. On the low end, you're not going to get anyone with real experience, and even at that high end, you're going to be hard to find somebody. But key among these things that we need to look for, and it's not in here, is BS&A experience. BS&A is the engine that runs the finances of this city. If you get a finance director from the outside, from private sector that has no BS&A experience, they're going to be behind the 8 ball from day one. I've spent the last 5 years learning BS&A utility billing, and I learned something new 2 nights ago. And every day I learn something more. All I can reiterate is we need someone with municipal finance experience, pay them a decent wage for good experience, and you're going to have a hard time finding them. You can ask Mr. What's his name? Mr. Thompson, who is now in Scioto Township, which is a township we recently worked for at Woodhill Group. The finance director position has been open for a year there, and he is currently looking for a finance director. They have similar issues. They're not a poor community. They do have some money, but finding someone that fits and can serve in that role is very difficult, so please look carefully. And I wish you the best, Ms. Mistretta. Like I said, it's a big job, and I think what we need in this city is stability in that department. So it's one thing to not have money and not be able to spend it. It's another thing to have a fair amount of money and know where to spend it, and that's what a good finance director can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Blanky.
Thank you. What I was going to say before even the comment was made, but it all will fit in. a lot of these situations come up when you're on council. These are personal matters, these are family matters, these are situations which we see, we read, and we do not respond to Facebook conversation. I don't see us as failing. I take all opinions with an open mind. Yes, the market has been hard. Yes, hiring people has been hard. Yes, everyone's struggling to regroup finances and businesses and whatever. But the reality is, I don't know if such an individual with 5 or 6 years or whatever experience should possibly apply for this job, because I don't know what that means. And the reality is, I feel that up here, we try as hard as we can to work with what we have, and I have absolutely no regret, Sarah, in us hiring you, and I do appreciate you giving us what you did, and I thank you so much. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Councilwoman Baranski.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the hiring of a human resources administrator within the parameters as outlined in the packet. I think we've come a long way, and I think that, thanks to Sarah, a lot of the structures in place, which is exactly what we were hoping for, was to start afresh and get us where we needed to be. We didn't have an HR department. We had someone who kind of, sort of, maybe, and it's now set up where we have the structures in place, and I think that this is a nice division of labor, especially with the new ads that we've had, that I think this is a value-added position. And that's my motion. My motion and my commentary.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Sarah.
Item F, Finance City Clerk, Mayor Pro Tem Shornack.
We recently received a resignation of our newly hired finance clerk. There was some issues that she had to address that took her away from the position, and it was unfortunate because I know she had been a huge asset to not only my department but also Cindy. So it was sad to see her leave. We are looking to repost that position and hoping to find another individual with municipal experience.
Mayor Pro Tem Shornack.
I'd like to make the motion to put out the ad for the finance clerk vacancy.
Second.
I was going to say, obviously, I do concur with Mr. Lessig in the fact that that needs to be stable. That is the engine, so
Yeah, it's,
it's important.
we need stability for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any comments or questions from the audience? Back at council? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Sarah, I know Elaine's going to mostly handle it, or Cindy, but when do we expect to start getting all these posted? Obviously ASAP?
Tomorrow,
Tomorrow? Okay, great.
trying to get everything buttoned up.
Hit enter.
That's what we wanted to hear. Thank you. Yep. Faster the better. Item G, library building future plan. Councilwoman Baranski.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I had asked for this to be on the agenda. We're kind of in limbo at this point, and so we, as a city, own a building, and we, as a city, have to make a plan for that building. We have no line item in our budget for maintenance of that building. We don't, I know where some members of the library board want to be, because I did meet with them, but I thought to just start off the dialogue, I had asked Mr. Denault to kind of give us a very condensed version of how we got to where we're at.
Condensed, yes, not lawyer speak. Most of you know, a few years ago, probably around 2019, it became a concern of the city that we own the library building, and we have what we can refer to as a tenant in our building. That's the library board, which, under law, is an actual public entity. They're not just, squatter, it's just squatter rights, just, they're just using the building without permission. They're a real entity under Michigan law. But it's been that way for as long as any of us can think back to or know. And that's just how it's always been. And whomever was in charge of, I guess, overseeing that probably never looked to the future, just thinking that this is a harmonious relationship. We're the city, we own the building, free and clear, and it's a great feature for our community to have a library there. And I know growing up here, that's all we've ever known is that's the Fraser Public Library. That's where you go. But we started looking in 2019 at the notion that the city was subsidizing that operation. And really, the library is funded and has its own source of money, so it should be funding its own operations free and clear of the city. And it became, nobody really used this word, but there was a bit of an entanglement issue, in terms of where is the city's line, where is the library's line, is there a blur of those lines in terms of who pays for what and how? So we started looking at that, and started talking about what it's going to be. Is it going to be that they take over the building from us? Is it going to be a lease? And the conversation went in the direction of they're going to take it over from the city for a number of reasons. For one, they need to own it in order to invest in it. The auditors that they have said you can't spend your money on capital improvements and infrastructure and making someone else's building nicer. It's not yours. So they kind of got some pushback from the auditors on that. So the ultimate goal was they take it over. So we achieved goal one, which was they're revenue neutral. It's not costing the city anything for them to be there. Goal two, though, of them taking ownership got derailed when COVID came around in March, 3 years ago right now, of 2020. And that conversation was kind of put on hold for a bit. Eventually, we restarted the conversation. And they have a lawyer from Foster Swift, the law firm that's got a few offices in the state. Their primary lawyer they were using is a library expert. She's got a great background in libraries. She knows all about how they work. There's two different versions of library boards. But she referred it over to her colleague in the Grand Rapids office, I believe, who does more real property and land property work. So we worked with him, and we moved forward with a purchase agreement. And I know there were probably quite a number of conversations with all of you about what we want that to look like. I remember specific conversations about making sure that we have the right to get it back if they ever cease being a library, because it is a city building. And we really built in protections as we went through the process of crafting it to make sure we protected the asset, because what we didn't want was for the library to take it over and then give it back to us in 3, 5, 8, 10 years in a dilapidated condition or with all of the improvements that need to be done failing again. And then we take over a building that's going to cost us money to take it back. So we built in protections for that. We came up with two possible ways to achieve the goal. One was we sell it to them for $1. And they make all the improvements that it needs, all the fixes, all the expansions. They spend all the money on everything that needs to be done. The other alternative was, just in case that was going to take too long and they needed an immediate fix, the city would front the money to fix it, and that would be the closing cost, the purchase price. It would just be made the purchase price. So if the city had to spend $50,000 on air conditioning for some reason, then they would buy it from us for $50,000. So that was built into the agreement. Went back and forth. I know I presented it to council once or twice as well with legal opinions and backgrounds, probably in closed sessions at some point. I don't recall the specifics of how I presented it to you, or maybe in updates. But we got really close to being done. Their lawyer had blessed the final version, I think in November of 21, if I remember right. And then just 4 days later, though, they came up with a new plan, potentially to buy or get into the PNC Bank building. They had learned of its vacancy, and obviously they knew it was vacant and for sale. But they actually, 4 days after I saved my final version of the document, they had plans prepared and dated by their team of architects, engineers, designers, whoever they are, showing what the potential could be for that new building. So that sort of stalled, I think, the conversation, because they wanted to explore whether the city could partner with them in terms of finding a way to either procure money through a bond issue to buy that building, or if that didn't work or wasn't going to be feasible, to at least use a bond issue to update, renovate, and expand the current building to fit their needs, because they feel they've outgrown the space. So that conversation began probably November, December of 21, and ensued all last year as they pursued it and presented, I believe, to all of you in December of '22. And here we are.
Thank you. So how much time do you think as a city we've put in through your efforts? Because you're billing us for your time in doing all that, right?
Of course, yes. I mean, it's a project like any other,
Yeah.
any other legal project that needs to be done.
Okay. And so as we sit here now, I feel, this is just me, and it has nothing to do with the library going to the bank or any of that. This is about what we do with the building that is sitting there, because at budget time, we're gonna have to make a budget item for that building. And that means either the residents pay more tax, or we cut in one of the existing departments because we don't have surpluses that we wish we had. And so I wanted to have a conversation, the logical thing to me, and it's so funny because Patrice and I did meet with 2 people on the board, and the director, I think is her title. And we were just talking, spitfiring different options and whatever. And it's so funny because I was like, oh, what about if we lease it and whatever? And I can now understand now, coming full circle, why that logistically doesn't make sense. We don't have the manpower of we're not in the business of leasing out a building, and it creates logistical nightmares. It circles back to, why don't they just buy it? And so to me, I don't know if they want to buy it. I know they had a conversation about it. I don't know if there was a consensus. I didn't get to go to the meeting. But that's what I wanted to figure out, what you guys want to do as a board. I'm in favor of putting it up for sale, right of first refusal to the library, because I don't want to raise taxes higher than they already are going to be, and I don't want to lay off any of our existing employees. And unfortunately, the status quo isn't working because the building is continuing to deteriorate and deteriorate and deteriorate. And we're the ones that get the emails of the complaints, but we all were under the assumption that they were fixing it. And I understand why they can't fix it. I get it. But it's not getting fixed, and it's only getting worse. So
Well, I've had long conversations too, and even sat down with the city manager myself too, and listened to Amy. And actually talking to the realtors where they are moving forward. They are trying to sell it to somebody else. They've had a couple offers. I've copied counsel on a couple things that they've tried.
Is that the car wash one?
That's one of them, yeah.
Okay.
But they can't.
I know, I know.
But they are aggressively moving to
Marketing.
was a car wash.
to get rid of that building. I happened to be looking with my wife. We looked at the newspaper on the weekend in the libraries, just to see what's going on. And every library had columns and columns of plans of what they're doing. And Fraser's was about this big. So I don't think there's an intent to really stay in that building whatsoever at our library. I don't know if we can, but can we just say, hey, we are going to charge rent for that building, enough that pays all the utilities, and start fixing it up. And if they don't want it, which I don't think they do, they'll have to find their buildings, but meanwhile, they can start paying their share. We can start fixing it with the funds that are needed to do and move forward. I mean, and I'm talking, not,
So who calculates the rent and who does the work?
well, I'm talking rent that would cover everything. I mean, like $2,500, $3,000. I came up with almost $3,000 a month rent, just for that building to start bringing it up to code.
We don't get to do anything for a year to bring it
Right,
up?
that would give them time to either look at, to doing it, but that number can obviously change based on council's decisions and discussions, but we've got to start looking at a new project and move forward. So we're responsible as a city, and we have to get this decision made. They either want it or they don't, plain and simple. If they don't, then we have to move forward. It's just that simple to me. We don't want another Dairy Queen on our hands.
Bingo, 100%.
I'm telling you,
We'll talk about that later.
yeah, that just, let's avoid that, let's make a decision and stick to it. We all were trying to help the library, I was for the project, and now, as, we have a responsibility as council to do what's right and best for the city now, and the time is right to move on. That's my opinion. Councilwoman Sutherland.
I agree that I'm not a fan of leasing it or renting it to them, though. Like, I don't want to be in the business of having to collect rent and get into, I mean, we obviously are filling our finance positions as it is. I don't know that we want to add debt collector, potentially to.
That's what I do
their-
for a living.
I know, to their plate. I mean, yeah, I did it for 10 years, but I don't think that we want to add that.
No.
We're good.
Right on there.
You want to just kick them out of the street.
I don't know. Right.
They're sitting on the books.
But I was just going to ask, I mean, has anybody revisited them buying the building for $1? I mean, if they are getting.
That's what they
Ask
discussed.
them, you want it or not?
Yeah, right,
Right.
Simple. If you don't, then move on.
What
right.
did they say?
No one gets an answer.
Oh.
I know some board members want to do that. I don't know.
Because with their increased mills, I mean, they're saying they're outgrowing their current building, right? Or their improvements that are needed. If they have this additional tax revenue coming in, you'd think that they
Well,
could.
let me chime in, if I may.
Yeah.
So per our conversation that we had, apparently there is $2 million worth of improvements that have to be done to the building. One would be the possessed elevator, and we were in that, so I can attest to that. The roof, those are two of the biggest expenses. So one thing I had said, instead of like a month-to-month rent, is that for the year that they would be there looking for other, or building other place to put the library, that one of those two big fixes would be quote-unquote their rent. That would be their buy-in, because they have, I know that they can't, because of their auditors, do any major improvements, but they've done some small little improvements, but they've done nothing of the big improvements that need to be happening regularly. And when we discussed this, my memory of the whole thing was, they were going to be paying rent, because then we were going to take that money and use it to do upgrades to the building, and then nothing ever happened. It just kind of went, psh. So they don't want to spend $2 million just to make that building better to move to another building. And I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
But the city also doesn't have that money. So I personally, in my opinion, I would much rather just say, here you go, we're selling it to you. Now, you take care of stuff. So you fix whatever you're going to fix or not fix in the time period that you're looking to do whatever else you're looking to do. As you fix it, then you guys can sell it, and then you guys have to worry about what to do with it once it's vacant.
It's fine, but what if they don't want it?
If they don't want it, then I say, well, that would be the first thing. And if they don't want to do that, and again, if they own it, they can get rid of it at any time. So,
That's exactly what I'm saying.
yeah.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
So if you needed to resurrect your final draft, like how difficult would that be at this point to kind of just?
It's in our, it's in our email. He emailed it to
Oh,
you.
no, I know, but I'm just saying, like, can we just pick up where we left off with that? That's my question, is if they're like, okay, yep, we'll buy it for $1, like, to get moving on it?
Sure, option one is just to present that to their lawyer and say, city council has directed me to ask again if your client is willing to enter into this agreement that we've come to. They'd have to have a meeting, they'd have to discuss with him and their lawyers and figure out if they like it, don't like it, want to change it. They'd come back to us if they had, changes and suggestions. It's the whole negotiation process that we would go through, but we're almost there. I mean, it's drafted, it's in really good shape unless they disagree with something now that they agreed to a year and a half ago. We're also in the process of splitting already. We're going to move forward with that regardless, so that we can preserve our cemetery and have that cleanly excised from the parcel, so that whatever council does want to do at some point, we don't have to worry about the split happening at that point. It's already done. The cemetery is ours. We have our easements. We have our maintenance ability. So we're moving forward with that as we speak, really.
So can you do that in the next 45 days if council gives you that direction to?
I'll present it tomorrow, and, it's just a question of when they meet next and have an answer for us at the next council meeting.
March 20th.
Their next
Oh,
meeting?
I'm on it.
Yeah.
Because I know they're aggressively just looking for other buildings. and
No.
We won't get an answer until they either decide yes or.
Right, we have to do what we have to do, independent of what they're going to do.
That this is a new project for council to move forward. What are we going to do with the library?
I think that makes the most sense to bring that back to them, and, I mean,
Yeah.
Councilman Odell.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to be landlords. I don't want to pour money into a building that we might have to sell, because whoever buys it's going to do whatever they're going to do to it, so it's just throwing money out the window. I'd be more in favor of a 3 to 4 month time frame where they make a decision whether they want to buy the property, if we sell it to them for $1 or whatever, then they can bond out and make the necessary improvements to make that building whatever they need to make that building if they choose that, or give them the option to rent, or find them another place, or, have an agreement that until you find another place, you pay rent to keep basic upkeep. But I don't want to put a whole lot of money into a building that we might just end up unloading just to get it off, because I don't want to, like I say, it's.
I don't think anyone's asking for us to put our money into that building. It wouldn't be that.
Well, if we're going to ask them to be a leasehold, if they're going to lease from us, it's our building. We got to put the money into it. If the roof caves in the next day,
is taxpayers'
Bingo,
money.
you got it.
We got to pay it. So
Yeah,
if
it's
we're going to be
taxpayers' money either
landlords,
way.
that could be a money pit.
It's taxpayers' money.
Well, that's.
No, you're right.
Yeah, so a reasonable amount of time where they can meet and decide which direction they want to go, and then we can act accordingly. If we know that they're going to move, then we can prepare the building for sale, get rid of it, and be done, and not landlords. And if they do want to buy it, give it to them cheap, let them put the money into it that they just got bonded. Or if they want to rent, which I don't think they want to, and I don't think we want to, I'd rather them sell it to them or be done with it.
Absolutely. Easiest path is the best, but again, I think we're falling into another Dairy Queen here. That's all. Councilwoman Baranski.
Well, two differences. One, we already own it. And since 2019, they have
did own
been
the Dairy
there
Queen.
rent-free. That's 4 years. So it's a little disingenuous to say they don't want to put any money into it. They haven't done it for 4 years in any meaningful capacity, and nor have we. And I 100% agree, because the other thing that happens when we now have tenants and we're open to the public and they're having events on our property, all kinds of liability things trigger in my brain as I see things that we're finally doing the right way with making sure that there's waivers and indemnification language. Do they even have insurance that covers the city in the light of some wonderful petting zoo animal doing something inappropriate to a kid? Hopefully they do, but all of those things, and those are costs to us. So to me, them leasing the building at this point, and it's not because I don't want the library there, I want the library there. And that's the other thing I wanted to say, because there was very clearly a disconnect between what we ruled on in December and what the takeaway was, at least to the 3 people that we spoke to and then some public that have. I did not vote to not bond to make improvements to the current building. That motion was never brought before council. We didn't even have conversation about that. And based upon the conversation that did occur, I think that it would have been unanimous that we would have bonded for improvements, subject to making sure that the finances made sense, et cetera, et cetera. But I just wanted to make that clear, and we did make that clear to them that night, that they thought we were done, they were never going to get a bond. So everyone's going through it for the first time. This is a first for everyone. So I just wanted to make sure so that the public who's watching knows we are not anti them improving the building, but this is about this is about the city tying up its resources. So with that being said, I would like to make a motion to present the library with the purchase agreement that Mr. Denault had forwarded to us that had been previously approved at least by their attorney, that sets forth the terms, and give them a month from today to let us know if they would like to exercise that option. If not, it's on the agenda as a continuing item, and we then discuss where as a city we go. Because the thing is, fundamentally, as we all know, when we negotiate, we say, oh, well, then we'll lease it to you, or, oh, then, guess what they're going to do? And not them, but guess what anyone's going to do? They're going to sit on their hands, they're going to wait, and they're going to say, well, they're not going to sell it, they're not going to. I say we sell the building. I'm going to say it right now. I don't want it empty, I want the library there, but if they don't want to be there, I don't want it. I don't want to put $2 million into a building that's going to be vacant and isn't functional for our city. So I've said it. So that's my motion, is to present the purchase agreement with the terms as outlined by Don to the library board with have Don present it tomorrow, and they have until the next city council meeting in April to let us know what they want to do.
So second, and I'm glad you said 30 days, because I don't know offense, Councilman O'Donnell, you said, 3 or 4 months, like, no. It needs.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, it needs to go. So that's all I was gonna say, I'll turn my light off.
Yeah, I agree, because you can't make a decision what we're going to do until you get that decision from them.
Right.
Because we want them to take that building.
I do want them to take that.
Yeah. And for $1,
Go crazy.
hey, I got it right here, I'll give them the dollar. Here's $1.
We'll have a fundraiser right here.
No, I think we did see some finance.
I'll be glad to buy them a building. So we have a you done, right?
Yeah, I'm done.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments and questions from the motion from the audience? Back in council, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Don. Please let us know.
I don't have anything to report. I came a little ill-prepared. I didn't expect Elaine to be out today. We do have, I guess on the rec front, we're doing an Easter egg extravaganza. I'll be back as the bunny since I'm the only person who fits in the suit that we found.
I could get you a bunny.
Do you need help with?
I promised Martez I would come back for him.
Okay, well, because I provided the bunny in, what was it, 2 years ago?
We're going to see what the condition of the bunny suit is. Okay. Yep, it's open to the public. No tickets are required. We'll have the egg hunt as well as the photo op like we had at the Christmas and Fraser event. It worked out great to have the photo station, and we had huge success with that. Just allow people to come in, do crafts in there, and face painting, and kind of keep people out of the elements. You never know what April could bring. It may just be a bunny photo op and people who want to brave the cold, but hopefully we will see an unseasonably warm egg hunt moment. And we also have our,
What date is that?
that is April 1st. It's a Saturday.
April Fool's.
We also
that's
have on the 25th our road rally. Still time to sign up for that. Great opportunity to have more of an adult event and get everybody out in the community and see some of the sights of Fraser. Registration's available at City Hall, and there's more information on the recreation page. And we have a special bingo next Wednesday at the Senior Activity Center with the Fraser Difference Makers and Officer McCowan. If anybody is interested in coming, I believe it starts at 2:30 for that event. They have great prizes, and it always ends up to be a fun event for the community. And everyone in the Senior Activity Center is always welcome.
If you need anything from the firefighters for Easter, let me know.
If you need help stuffing eggs, let me know.
We'll keep the eggs empty and do little bags, just because
Oh, well, if you need help with anything, how's that? I'll just make
We
it.
can
No,
always,
she's only stuffing eggs.
I know. If you need help with anything, please let me know.
Yes, see, Mary's over there.
it's fun to dump the eggs from the bucket and let them run after them.
we have lots of eggs, so we may take you up on that.
Okay, thank you for the update. A report of mayor, city council.
Okay.
Ransky.
So the other day, Patrick and I had, Mr. Mayor couldn't make it, but we had a meeting with the road committee, subcommittee. It was very information-filled. And so next month, we're going to have a very important, in my opinion, conversation about the two different groups of roads and bonding, and so be prepared. A lot of decisions have to be made. We have to, one of the most important things besides obviously the amount of the bond and the amount of the mills is when we have the vote for the public. So more to come on that. We are continuing to get information, and thank you to our AEW rep and then our bond attorneys who really were very gracious with their time and information and making sure that we understood it so we could present it to you in a very much more consolidated package, because my head was spinning several times with some of the stuff they were saying. It's very,
Yeah, those bond attorneys are really smart.
yeah, really smart. Also, I just want, with regard to the road rally, you have the proper waiver?
Yes.
Okay,
When
thank
you
you.
come in at City Hall, we have all the packets together with the information.
Just because there was a little snafu with the wrong waiver being circulated.
The original waiver we've still kept, so it allows people to put their team information on.
Perfect.
So that we can have all the contact and participants available. So it's now more of a package item.
Excellent. So other than that, that's all I have. Thank you. Great meeting.
Thank you.
I have nothing.
Sutherland?
Yeah, nothing. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Good, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Green eggs and ham, right?
Aaron go brown.
Nothing as well.
Nothing. Mayor Pro Tem.
The museum will be having their open house on the April 2nd at the Depot. because the museum's still not open, because apparently they have not continued doing the work. So that was actually going to be one of my questions. Because it should be an insurance claim, so what's the holdup? Do you know by chance?
I will check with Nickel and Staff tomorrow and make sure we get a response as to what's going on.
Yeah, because if it's being, I mean, I get it, believe me, I get it, it's hard to find anybody who's qualified to do plaster and stuff like that, because those walls are plaster, but we still need to try to get the repairs completed and get it back open up.
Yes.
But they will be having the depot open, and she said that they will have lots of Easter stuff for sale, as well as jewelry. And I think that was actually all I had.
Great, thank you. Councilman Blinky.
I'll go with the crowd. Nothing. Have a nice month and God love you. Thank you.
I just have one thing, and just to let everybody know, we actually celebrated the 21st anniversary of Dave Sutton's death, firefighter Sutton. 23 years later, and we still had a really great turnout at the memorial. Thank you again, Director, for being there, and afterwards, we took the family out again, and it's just a tight little bunch of people there, and I guess I will never forget what happened that day, so thank you, and thank you to the residents who showed up too, Mike and a bunch of other people. Appreciate it a whole bunch. Citizen participation. Anybody would like to speak?
Laura Lessig, 15201 Fairview. I just have a comment regarding the job descriptions for the finance director and the HR or whatever. I would expected a little bit more conversation about it, since we've had challenges with the position being multiple hats, that it would have been more of a split a little bit differently. And in my mind, I can't imagine our city needing a full-time HR director. So that's my thought about that. The other thing I wanted to mention is the Fraser First Booster Club is having their next meeting on Tuesday, March 14, which is coming up. And it's going to be at Tim Hortons on 15 Mile Road in Fraser at 6 o'clock. So you're all welcome to join us. Now that the McKinley Park is considered complete with a few minor updates we're doing, I would really like the city to consider having security cameras in that park. It's worth a lot of money. We spent a lot of hard work on that, and I'd hate to see it keep getting vandalized as it does now and then. So please consider the security cameras. The other thing I wanted to ask or tell you about is don't forget to spring forward this weekend. So don't want to be late for anything, right? So thank you. And Sarah, good luck to you.
Hopefully they're going to end daylight saving soon. God, I hope so.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll make a motion that we go into closed session, the strategy session connected with the negotiating collective bargaining agreement with the POAM. Second. Motion and second. Can you please roll call, Cindy?
Councilmember Bransky?
Yes.
Councilmember Blanky?
Oh, yes.
She's ready.
I was ready to get.
Yes.
Councilmember Odell?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Shornack?
Yes.
And Councilmember Sutherland?
Yes.
We'll go into closed session at 8:45, 7:45. Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order at 8:30 PM. We'll move to closed session item B. I make a motion to go back into closed session, strategy session connected with the negotiation of collective bargaining agreement, the COAM.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Cynthia, can you please do a roll call?
Councilmember Bransky?
Yes.
Councilmember Blanky?
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodow?
Yep.
Mayor Pro Tem Shernick?
Yes.
And Councilmember Sutherland?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go into closed session 8:31. Okay, I will call the meeting back to order at 8:58 PM. Motion to adjourn. All second, all in
Amen.
favor?
Hallelujah.
Have a nice weekend and a safe St. Patty's Day, everybody.